question is, how real is that?
It's what we agree.
It's the value of it.
It's the value of it. I mean, it's just a piece of plastic. You know? And you can come with that, like that, and say, is it still valuable? Do you still want it? If I ripped it in half, which I can't do with plastic, mate, would you still want it?
Yeah.
If I jumped up and down and stomped it on the floor, would you still want it? Because you believe that's got value. But if I went to a foreign country and gave that to a 5-year-old kid, they'd play with it for 2 minutes and then toss it away. Because it's just the value we put on it. And the value you put on things will be different for everybody depending upon your BS. So I don't have a whiteboard because they turned it into a blackboard for advertising specialists.
Oh.
So I can't write anything up for you, but if you could just throw me what are some common belief systems, what's some common BS about money?
The more you have, the better off you are.
The more you have, the better off you are. That's a belief system.
It's hard to get.
Money's hard to get.
Doesn't grow on trees, you know.
It doesn't grow on trees.
Grow on trees, you know.
Well, paper money used to.
Paper money,
Yeah.
but
What
the
else?
belief systems are very true, because I went to the US and 3 little children, I gave them $5 each, flipped to a little koala and actually had to ask their mother, what was it that I was giving them.
They didn't know what the money was, or they didn't know what the file was.
No, they didn't know what the $5 was, because it was our $5 note,
Yeah.
the US $5 note.
Yep, yep.
So they didn't see any value in it, so
Yeah.
money around the world maybe different value.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I mean, the funny thing is, like the plastic notes are impossible to forge. US banknotes are forged all the time. And when I travelled through China, I had Australian money and US dollars. And I'd given the Australian money and they'd checking it out like this. But you give them the US money, which is all green, all looks exactly the same. And I had no idea sometimes whether it was a $10 note, $20 note, $100 note that I was giving them.
Yeah.
But they just took it, didn't even check it, just put it straight into their pocket. Because they believe there's higher value in the US dollar than the Aussie dollar. So, and if you travel through Asia and you've got a plastic Australian banknote that's got a rip in it, a tear in it, a quarter missing, they won't take it. So that is worthless in Bali, or a bit and a half. But anywhere in Australia, you take in here, even if I set fire to half of it and burn it down, I'll still take it here. So money's hard to get. The more you have, the better off you are.
Rich people can pick their own friends.
Interesting.
Money gives you choices.
Money gives you choices. Okay. There's some interesting belief systems that we have about money. Of course, when you're born, you don't have any of those belief systems. When you're born, you've got no concept of what money is. And that's why you take that money and just play with it, toss it, throw it in there. And we all have these belief systems which we've actually picked up somewhere in society. So it's interesting because you think, well, that's common knowledge. You know, everybody's got that knowledge. But if you grew up in a tropical island somewhere where money was shells, then maybe money didn't grow on trees. Maybe money came out of the ocean every morning. When there's a big tide, hey, money for everybody.
It does. You know, Victoria and New Guinea and Solomons.
There you go.
Shell money.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the money supply can be as abundant as the tide's coming up. It can be as abundant as the trees growing. You know. But we have this belief system that money doesn't grow on trees and it's hard to get and you have to grab hold of it and things like that. Which you didn't grow up with those beliefs. You consciously, you learn something else. And then you say, okay, well that belief system's no longer appropriate anymore. And of course the classic story is Robert Kiyosaki with Rich Dad Poor Dad. He grew up and his dad believed you have to work hard and money was hard to come by. And life was hard. And he had that belief system all the while he was growing up until he actually met somebody else who told him a few different things. And consciously you'll say, hey, there's that guy over there. And for me, it was when I was about 18, 19, when I actually met a bloke who was a multi-millionaire. And he wasn't a bastard. He wasn't greedy. He wasn't horrible. He wasn't dishonest. And I sort of went, Because the entire time I was growing up, that's what I learned. You know, someone goes past in a flash car and my mum would say, oh, greedy, dishonest, must have ripped somebody off. Drug dealer, that sort of stuff. And that was the belief system that I had for many, many years. Until I was virtually out of finished school. And noticing that this guy's not like that. Yes, there are some people who are like that, but this guy's not like that. So maybe I need to change that belief system. But intellectualising that belief system and actually having it a bit further down is two entirely different things. So on an intellectual level, I will say to you that money can be as abundant as the waves coming in on the beach. And you might say, yeah, every day there's another $1 million comes off that printing press. In the States, it's billions of dollars they're printing out every single day right now. Every day the value of something goes up somewhere. So gold price might be going up, property price might be going up, the share market might be going up. And guess what? There's more money in the system now than there was yesterday, even though the share market went down last night. Even though the property market stagnated a bit, there's more money in the system now than there was yesterday and the day before and the day before. There's enough money in circulation for every single person on the face of the earth to have $1 million in cash. In cash. Not counting your house and your car and everything else that you've got. But there's some people who are very, very good at attracting more than their $1 million. And there's some people who are very good at losing it. And I used Robert Kiyosaki as an example before, and everybody knows Robert Kiyosaki is the rich dad, poor dad guy. Not many people know that Robert Kiyosaki was bankrupt. How many times has Donald Trump been bankrupt? A few. Yes. 3 or 4 times, depending on who you listen to.
Yeah.
But at one stage, he was $900 million in debt personally, just himself. His companies owed about $30 billion, but himself, he owed almost $1 billion, just him personally. There's a famous day, I think it was in 92, 94, when he was walking along the street and saw a homeless guy, just a bum on the street, said, that guy's got more money than me. Even if he's got 1 cent, he's got more money than me. Now, there's people like Donald Trump and Robert Kiyosaki who can make a bad decision and use their strategy and go, okay, I just invested $20 million into that high-rise. I borrowed $15 million for it. All of a sudden they revalue it at $10 million and I go, crikey. I was expecting I was going to make some money, now I'm still behind. I owe the bank more than what I've actually got, what I can sell. And that's exactly what happened to those guys. And they can have a bad strategy, but they can still bounce back. So Kiyosaki went bankrupt, came back. Donald Trump, bankrupt, came back. Bankrupt, came back. 2 years later, bankrupt, came back. So what's the difference between that guy and, say, somebody who, I don't know, what I call the curse of the big O? Because if I give you $1 million and you don't have anywhere to put that right now, you're going to lose it. Keno, $1 million, like that.
Casino.
I can trip over in the restaurant. Casino. Trip over in the restaurant, what do I get? Combo. $1 million. Lotto, bingo, Keno, compo. Casino. And the other one is called Gremo. If you haven't heard of Gremo, that's when grandma dies or some grandma dies and leaves you $1 million that you weren't expecting. All of those ways of getting the money very, very quickly, and you know. And if you're not ready for it, that's exactly what you'll have within 12 months. You've read the statistics. You know that 95% of the lottery winners within 12 or 18 months actually owe more than what they won. There was a guy in the States 2 years ago who won $16 million, and I think it took him 13 months and he owed $17 million. That was pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Now, that guy's mindset, that guy's belief system is, I'm sort of about here on the value scales. This is where I place myself. This is how much I can hold. This is how much I can handle. So, if I got this glass, and I won't do it because it's not mine, cracked it, and then said, okay, I'm going to put in a little bit of water in there. It'll probably hold a little bit of water. Right? But if I got that glass and put it in front of a fire hose and tried to fill it up massively as quickly as I could, what's going to happen? It's going to end up in a million pieces. And the important thing is to make sure you've got the place to put your money. And usually, if you're on the strategy camp, that will be trusts, self-managed super funds, asset protection strategies, putting everything in someone else's name. And if you've got the mindset, that'll be here. You know, you're 6 inches away from success. 6 inches from here to here. That's all it is.
There's more than enough to go around.
There's more than enough to go around.
Abundance is everywhere.
Abundance is everywhere. Like it.
If you lose it, you just go and get some more.
Just go to the beach. Pick up some more pills. It's fantastic.
Find somebody's hole. Don't care.
There's,
If you're going to dig in someone's gold mine, don't take a bucket and spade. Take a front end loader.
Yes.
the human brain has thoughts, okay? And every thought is an electrical impulse, same as like what's going through your computer. Not every electrical impulse is a thought, because sometimes you can actually see something but you're not actually thinking about the card that's going to touch. But the conscious mind will process 50,000 electrical impulses per second. So while you're driving, you're listening to the song, you're seeing the traffic in front of you, conscious vaguely of that person overtaking and someone behind you. 50,000 bits of information a second going through your conscious mind. The subconscious mind will process 4 trillion electrical impulses per second. So I kind of thought that was pretty cool maths. You know, it's about 1 billion to 1, which is even more than your chance of winning a lottery. And for the visual people, I kind of thought, okay, well, imagine we're all on the Titanic. We're going along and we're having a good time. We're all rich and drinking our champagne. And there's a huge, one great big iceberg down there. And someone sees the iceberg and goes, holy crap, look at that. Okay. That iceberg is the subconscious. That's how big it is, that's how powerful it is. And to put it in the context of 1 billion to 1, we're going to get a tiny little frozen green pea out of your bird's eye packet and stick it on top of the iceberg. That's your conscious mind. That's the size, the power and the awesomeness of your conscious mind sitting on top of the iceberg. So when you say, I'm going to change my belief systems, I'm going to be the next billionaire, I'm going to go to school and learn these strategies and I'm going to get the affirmations and the incantations and put my dream board up and write things on my wall and read all the positive material I can get my hands on, what you're trying to do is put things in through that green pea. And you've got to put a hell of a lot through that green pea for a hell of a long time before it's going to make any impact on the iceberg. When someone's in a trance state, you can actually shut off the green pea, because the green pea is the filtration system. Everything happens goes through the conscious mind. And then if you think that I'm talking a lot of crap, you just disregard it and all goes. If you think it's good, some of it will actually drip feed in a little bit further, maybe just down to the waterline of the iceberg, but again, 90% of the iceberg is underneath the water. If it goes down this far and it doesn't agree with the belief systems that you picked up from your parents, your teachers, your society, it's not going to go any further. And it doesn't have much of an impact. But I can hypnotise someone, put them in trance. It's very easy. and switch off that conscious mind. And then talk directly to the subconscious and actually make the changes in there without the filter system saying, no, that's crap, I don't agree with that, or that doesn't agree with what my mother told me. When someone's in that trance state, they're not actually asleep. Because if you're asleep, you wouldn't hear anything. You wouldn't be conscious of anything. I could talk all day, you wouldn't hear it. And if you're awake, then we've got the conscious mind saying, no, that's crap, my mother didn't tell me that. So you're just in between, in that grey spot, in between asleep, not quite awake. We can actually talk directly to the subconscious. And the affirmations and the dream boards and all the incantations and all those things are all great, but you have to do a lot of that for a long time if you're going in through the top. If you're coming through the side, you just have a little practice hypnotherapy session, just for 5 minutes. And for some of you this will work, for some of you this won't work, depending on the type of person you are. That's okay, because it's just a little quick one that we're doing as a group. One-on-one, obviously, it's a lot different because I can tailor it. But we just kick back in your chairs for a second. Take a deep breath. And if you don't enjoy it, then just be quiet and let everybody else enjoy it. If it's not working for you, it doesn't matter. But again, remembering that we're aiming for the sweet spot where you're not asleep and snoring, but you're not awake and actually dismissing everything I say. So you're just in that middle range. Now close your eyes to help yourself relax. Help to close down the conscious mind. Take a deep breath. Want oxygen into all areas of the body. Breathing very deeply. Just relax. Let your shoulders drop down. Just breathe deeply. Open up the throat. It's okay to snore a little bit because I know you won't fall asleep while you're in the chair. Sometimes the throat does relax and people will snore while they're actually being hypnotised. Just breathe very deeply. Just relax. Move your neck. Move your head. Open your mouth slightly. A lot of people will clench their jaws when they're tense. You're also moving your jaws while you're speaking. While you're listening to others, you're unconsciously moving your jaw and moving your tongue. Just relax, breathe deeply. I want you to come for a walk with me. We're going to take a little journey. I've spoken already about walking on the beach today. And as we go for a walk down along the beach, it's feeling very warm, relaxed, calm. Breathing deeply, enjoying the sunshine, feel of the warm sand on your feet. As you walk along the beach, you notice the waves are coming in and throwing up seaweed onto the sand. You're just watching this, no emotion, no attachment. You don't really care about seaweed. Every wave comes up and throws a bit more seaweed onto the beach. And as you're walking along, you notice there's a lot of kids down the beach. Could be school holidays, just walking, not really attached to it. And some of these kids start picking up the seaweed as it washes in. And they grab the seaweed, and they walk over to a little section of the beach, and they just claim that as their section of the beach. And they start making piles of seaweed. And you're just watching these kids, not involved in the situation, not emotional about it, watching the kids running down and grabbing more seaweed as the next wave comes in, and then carrying it back and putting it on their pile. And again, just completely calm and without emotion, without attachment. You notice that the bigger kids make pushing some of the smaller kids to the side. And maybe their legs are a bit longer so they can run a bit faster and they can grab the seaweed. And they come back and put it on their pile. And some of the other little kids have worked their way around that. And they're running off to different areas of the beach. The seaweed's coming everywhere. They're just grabbing their piles of seaweed, making their little piles. And you're just walking along, very calm, very relaxed, watching the kids. And as you're walking along, continue watching the kids, hundreds and hundreds of them. you start to notice some of the structures and the piles that they're building. And some of the kids are making very beautiful, intricate designs in their piles of seaweed. Some kids have just got a bit of a mess. And as you're walking along and you're noticing the distinctions between more attractive piles of seaweed and the less attractive piles of seaweed, you've noticed that some of the kids aren't actually running down to the waves. Most of the kids are running down to the waves, grabbing the seaweed. Some of the kids are actually going over to other people's piles and taking some seaweed from their piles. And possibly these kids are throwing the seaweed onto their pile. And that's it. There's plenty of seaweed. No emotion, no problem with that. Some of the kids may be taking the seaweed from their own pile, from other people's piles, or from the next wave that just dumps up a big load of seaweed. And they actually start to put it onto the more attractive piles of seaweed. And the kids who have the more attractive piles of seaweed, they're still building their pile. They're still doing their thing. And more of these children are actually bringing in the seaweed to add to their pile and making it more attractive, more big, more beautiful. And again, you're just watching this, not involved in the story, just walking along with me. And every wave brings in a new pile of seaweed. And you just start to look and see that the more these piles become bigger and more attractive, that the more kids are actually drawn towards helping build those piles, and sometimes not even thinking about their own piles of seaweed. And because you're a lot bigger and a lot smarter than the kids, you're not really worried by this. You know that somewhere out there, somewhere beyond the shore, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of acres of seaweed. It's just growing and then breaking off and growing and breaking off. And you know that the flow will always come in. And you know that there's not going to be a problem, there's not going to be a shortage of seaweed, but it's still growing. Just walk along and have a smile as you see that some of the kids are adding to the other kids' piles. And some of them having these big, attractive, beautiful piles. And some of them having a smaller, scrappy looking pile. And you start to think, what was I like when I was a kid? Was I the kid who took pride in my pile? Was I the kid who built the big fabulous empire? And everybody came, and everybody looked, and everybody helped? Did I form a chain gang and have kids passing the seaweed along the line? Did I just leave my pile there as scrappy? As you think about that, I think you're not a kid anymore. So it doesn't really matter what you did when you were a kid. And the important thing is what you do right now. Because you know, at the end of the day, those beautiful piles will disappear with the high tide. And the little piles will disappear as well. And the next day there'll be more seaweed coming back. And the important thing is what you did with it. You can learn a lesson from what you've seen and which children you've identified. So as we come back into the room, I want you to bring that lesson with you from your subconscious mind, who's been listening to a story about seaweed, to the conscious mind who knows that you've got to go to work today and actually do something with your finances. And just possibly, just maybe, there might be a link between the two stories. It's going to help you out. So as you come back into the room, remember what you've learned. as we leave the beach, you know you can use that lesson today.